Magic the Gathering players back again. This is Maelstrom MTG, and today we have a ridiculous deck. It is still budget modern, but it makes me feel like I'm playing real Magic. I'll be honest, sometimes when I play budget decks, I'm like, I could just have the non-budget version of this card and it would be better. I did not feel like this was a budget deck. I just built the deck and it happened to be budget. So I was like, why not? Let's make a video on it. This was something I was making for, like, not even for a video. And it just happened to be budget. I'm like, why not? And so I've been working on this since Tuesday. And I've been playing game after game after game. And I am 13-2 with this deck. It is insane. And it's burning taxes. As you can see, we are maintaining that budget with 94.52 on paper, 69.76 online, and let's dive right in. So our creature base is absolutely insane. We have Ash Zealot, which is one of the biggest overperformers of the list. Red for a 2/2 first strike haste. First strike is huge. And then whenever a player casts a spell from a graveyard, it deals 3 damage to that player. So many decks randomly cast cards from the graveyard, it is insane. And so this card came in handy so much, so often. I love this card so much. I'm surprised it's 220. Next up is Eidolon and the Great Revel. You guys know it. It's annoying, and it is a burn staple. It is, whenever a player casts a spell with mana cost 3 or less, deal 2 damage to that player. That is insane. That is so nuts. And so this is going to be one of our biggest damage dealers in the entire deck. Next up is what really makes our opponent think twice before attacking. This card game came in handy so much against Death Shadow, against Hammer Time, against all those decks. Whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. If they attack us with a 10-10, we block, they take 10 damage. Or maybe our Boros Reckoner isn't quite big enough to kill it, and so whenever it's dealt damage, it'll just deal that much damage to that creature. Because if it's not enough to, like, get them a reasonable amount of health down, we can at least just say, okay, you know what, we're just going to kill your creature then. But Fanatic of I keep saying Fanatic of Bolas. A Fanatic of Mogus. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage to each opponent equal to your devotion to red. That gets past Hexproof, it gets past Leyline of Sanctity. I love it. And it is amazing. It's a 4/2, and honestly, people are like, oh, I'll just kill it. And then, you know what gets them? Eidolon Great Revel. Or, they're targeting our permanent. So, Laylin Combustion. 4 mana. If it's in your opening hand, you can start the game with it on that board. You can, and then it says, whenever you are in at least one permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, Laylin Combustion deals 2 damage to that player. That is insane. If we start the game with this, we don't even have to go first. If our opponent's going first, we start the game with this on the battlefield, they Thoughtseize us, they lose 4 life. They Inquisition of Kozilek us, they lose 2 life. They do anything that targets us or a permanent we control at all, they lose 2 life. And so this card is insane. And so really, this entire deck is just making all of the permanents, just make them lose life. The only permanent that only makes them lose life once is Fanatic of Mogus. Boros Reckoner can do it a few times, but Fanatic of Mogus and Boros Reckoner and Laylin of Combustion. But if you really look at it, let's go back to Fanatic of Mogus. We can start the game with us on the board. That gets us a huge head start in our devotion to red. Then we have Ash Zealot, red, Eidolon, red, Boros Reckoner, red, and then Fanatic of Mogus, which is red. And that has so much devotion, it is insane. Anyway, moving on to, that's the tax part of the deck. Moving on to the burn part of the deck, we do have Lava Spike as a way to deal 3 damage to a player planeswalker. I'm giving you guys this list. But after 15 matches, I will give you some thoughts on the list. I do want to give you the exact list I went 13-2 with, but I do want to make some comments. Lava Spike, kind of an underperformer. It didn't deal with their board states, and so I wasn't really I still won games, but even if I had to pay like 2 mana, I would have loved to just have something that can just target anything. And then Lightning Bolt, huge, was able to just hold this up and then just deal damage whenever I needed it. Skullcrack stopped that life. It only targets players though, so that was kind of a bummer, but I still really like this. But in those matchups where they're gaining life, I feel like I could just bring in Roiling Vortex, and so I might honestly lean towards taking Skullcracks out and honestly putting something like Bone Crusher in. That will take testing though, so I will leave the list how it is right now. Skullcrack, Lava Spike, still amazing cards. Do just the job you need them to do. Riffball, a great turn 1 play, because quite often in this style of deck, you don't have a turn 1 play, so playing Riffball on turn 1 on suspend, and then your opponent goes, and then they have to make the decision, okay, what cards in my opening hand am I willing to sacrifice? Am I willing to get rid of? Because they know it's going to die from Riftbolt. Next up is Skewer the Critics. Spectacle, so that it turns into a normal bolt. Deals 3 damage to any target. I love this card so much. Especially in a deck where they are losing so much life so quickly. Quite often, though, they're going to do something like that triggers Laylin, Eidolon, whatever, on their own turn. So Skewer doesn't get reduced by that, but it's still an insane amount of damage. Next up is our mana base, which we have 4 Forgotten Cave. I really like this card, even outside of a budget, because it does allow us to just pay a red, draw a card. If we draw another Forgotten Cave, we can pay a red, draw a card. Where if we were to have our Canopy lands, like Sunbaked Canyon, we play Sunbaked Canyon, sack it, draw a card. We draw another Sunbaked Canyon, we can't play it. So Forgotten Cave, if you are unfortunate enough to have drawing multiple of them, they are just cycle, and so it's really nice there. But also, you don't care about it entering tapped. Play it on turn 1. You don't really have a turn 1 play anyway. The biggest turn 1 play you have is if you go second, or if you go first and you suspend a Riftbolt. You'll see that a lot of what we're doing is at 2 mana. We have a mountain. We have 16 mountains. Really, it's a mono red deck. Not anything beyond a mono red deck. Don't try to get me to switch from mono red. I will not. Not very easily. Round up ruins. Pay 1 life. Add red. Tap. Add colorless. Or pay 4 mana. Sack a desert. Deal 2 damage each opponent. This is going to be a way we can finish off our opponents if we need to. The only reason I'm running 2 and not 4 is because I don't want to lose as much life. Because some of our cards tax ourselves as well. Like Eidolon and the Great Revel does tax ourselves. So we don't want to be killing... we don't want to be losing so much life that we lose the game. Anyway, that's it for the main deck. Before I switch over to the sideboard, if you like this deck, please hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe. It means a lot. I am really inching towards that 100 subscriber mark, and every single sub just brings me so much joy. It makes me super happy seeing, some random person subscribe to your channel. It's like, it just brings me a lot of joy. So if you like the content, if you want to support the channel, please hit that subscribe. It means a lot. Moving on to the sideboard, we have 4 Roiling Vortex. The number of times this comes in is insane, because it says beginning of each player's upkeep, it deals 1 damage to them. Great against control, great against other decks that you're just trying to get the last little inch of damage to them. Then whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, deal 5 damage to that player. Amazing. This card is amazing. Because if they try to cast Mishra's Bauble, if they try to cast Memnite, Ornithopter, Gutshot, any of those spells, they lose 5 life. And they cannot afford to lose 5 life. Especially if I can pay a red to make sure that they can't gain that life this turn. Next up is Smash the Smithereens. Smash the Smithereens says, destroy target artifact. Smash deals 3 damage to the artifact's controller. This versus a Braid, I had that dispute. I went with this because you're trying to keep up as much damage as possible. You cannot afford to take out a damaging spell to bring in a Braid. You just can't do that. You need to just say, okay, I'm going to destroy target artifact and then deal 3 damage to its controller. It's one of the things you have to say. The 2 different modes is nice on a Braid, but Smash is way better in this deck. Blood Moon, it was kind of the biggest underperformer of the deck, and taking up $27 of our budget was kind of a disappointment. But Blood Moon could easily be good in a lot of matchups that I just didn't go against. But I don't know. I will say what I changed the deck to. I haven't had the chance to try it yet, but I'll say what my thoughts are on it. Next up is Scab Clan Berserker. Haste 2/2 for 3 mana. Renown that whenever it attacks and isn't... Well, whenever it deals damage to a player, if it's not renowned, put a 1 counter on it, and it becomes renowned. So then whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, if it's renowned, they lose. It deals 2 damage to them. So it's kind of like a Eidolon of Great Revel, but kind of goes against like combo decks and control decks. But they do it does have to attack, so it does have to get through. And so this is kind of it kind of underperformed in the 2 games I brought it in, but I think this could really see this really has a lot of potential. So I'd say that with the gameplay being done, I would go -1 Scab, -3 Blood Moon on the side, go up 4 Pithing Needle. I think that will help our blue-white control and Tron matchups, naming any of their planeswalkers, and I think you're good. Bone Crusher Giant, like I said, I'm considering in the main board instead of Skullcrack. And then these are our match results. As you can see, we went 4-1, 4-1, and 5-0. This was on a website called untap.in, not MTGO. So you can't go look it up, but there is no point in me saying, oh, this went 13-2, and then it not having gone 13-2. I get nothing out of it. Anyway, so if you like the deck, let me know below. And I really enjoyed this deck so much. I've played it way more than I play normally. Anyway, I will see you next time.